Welcome into the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey. Apologies for sounding a little bit under the weather. But we're taking a look at the top Mike McCarthy replacements, the Cowboys head coach candidates. Now that Bill Belichick is not an option, it's Chapel Bill for the Tar Heels and the former Patriots head coach. He is taking the North Carolina head coaching job, which very much was a surprise and certainly seems like, at least at some level, Bill maybe wasn't sold he was going to get an NFL head coaching job this year. So be honest with me. Did you want to hire Bill Belichick? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. I've seen some reaction of, Bill's not an option. They're going to keep Mike. I don't understand where this idea, outside of the trauma of not wanting to keep Mike McCarthy and being where the Cowboys will do it again, the idea that there's a limited pool doesn't make sense to me. If you do a real coaching search, you will find a head coach candidate. Look at all the top head coaches around the NFL. Guys like Sean McVay, guys like Kyle Shanahan, all these different offensive minds. Matt LaFleur, they were first-time head coaches. So don't just interview 5 people and 3 of them are former head coaches and only limit yourself. Do a real coaching search. Get real change in here. Don't really look at guys that are heavy ties to the organization or former head coaches, because if you're only going by the resume, it does get tough to find a better option than a guy with a Super Bowl who had 3 straight 12-win seasons. But it's the playoff stuff that matters. It's not about October for this team. It's about January. You got to take a little risk. Scared money don't make money. I acknowledge the possibility that you might miss on the head coaching hire. Okay, the mystery box is a lot more appealing when the current option just isn't good enough in the end. So we'll break down my head coach candidates here in just a second. Some of my top options and then kind of grouping it by buckets, so to speak, offensive mind, defensive mind. Do you want to fire Mike McCarthy or invite him not to return, so to speak? FM for fire Mike, KM for keep Mike. It is the pinned comment on today's show. So if that ad happens to play here on YouTube, it's fine. Take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Now, my dream option, and I think many people's dream options, not just Cowboys fans, other NFL teams too, is Ben Johnson, the current Lions offensive coordinator. He's young. He's innovative. He fits the mold of what a lot of the recent success has been in the NFL. You hire the young, innovative head coach, the offensive mind, and he carries that through, and it works well as a head coach. There are concerns. He clearly wants certain things. He wants, organizational accountability and alignment, and that was very clearly an issue this year with the Dallas Cowboys. That's my dream option. I don't know how realistic it is. I think every NFL fan base wants to hire Ben Johnson and Robert Saleh as the DC, maybe minus the Jets since they can't hire Robert Saleh as their DC. If you look at some of the betting lines out there, the betting favorite, Mike Vrabel. And I think that's understandable. He checks off a lot of the boxes for Dallas. Got a good relationship with Stephen Jones, no time together on the competition committee. He is a former NFL head coach. He's had some playoff success. He fits that CEO. There's no has to learn how to do the job stuff that Jerry's been scared about before. But the OC hire is critical. When he had Arthur Smith, when he had Matt LaFleur, they were good. When he had Todd Downing, they were bad. So the first question I would ask Mike Vrabel, who's your OC? Gives me a good name, good idea. I feel better about it. He trots out Todd Downing. I don't want to go down that route. Kind of the whole Belichick thing, right? Like he just brought his guys back together to North Carolina. It's not what I wanted. Got to have something similar with Vrabel in a positive sense. So a lot more names to come. Who do you want as the next Dallas Cowboys head coach? Let me know in the comments section of today's show who you have your eyes on. All right, first, some experienced people. Some fired head coaches. Pete Carroll, the former Seahawks head coach. I think an under-the-radar candidate this year. He's up there in age. It'd be funny if we went back to the USC college spot as well. But he's got experience. I don't think it was fully mutual, the decision to leave Seattle last year, so don't sleep on that one. And these are kind of ranked. They're loosely ranked, by the way. Robert Saleh, the Jets got worse without him. That should not be overlooked. He has the head coaching experience. He also never got the OC hire right. That's a big deal. Brian Flores, the Vikings defensive coordinator. He has done a fantastic job as the DC in Minnesota. And in general, you're often hiring coaches to be head coaches because what they did as a coordinator. But that's not a one-to-one translation. Sometimes the best coordinators don't make good head coaches. One name that here in a little bit. The handling of Tua was a disaster. He also never got the OC hire right in Miami. You'd have to vet those things pretty heavily. I'll put Mike Zimmer here. I like what Zimmer's done. I think he's done a lot of different stuff. He's a good DC. I think it'd be a wildly uninspiring hire as head coach that I would not be a fan of. You'll notice a lot of these names I don't like very much for the fired head coaches group, by the way. If Steve Spagnuolo only does good jobs as a defensive coordinator, wasn't a good head coach, I'm a little surprised he hasn't really gotten a chance since then. He might fall into the Wade Phillips bucket of, that guy's a great defensive coordinator. He is just not a head coach. I hate the idea of Cliff Kingsbury. I do. I'm sorry. His offenses get worse in the second half of seasons. I am willing to acknowledge he's done a great job this year for the most part as the OC of the Commanders. I think he's a fine offensive coordinator. He is a failed head coach, multiple different stops. Arizona, and he was bad at Texas Tech. Would be a terrible, terrible hire. Vance Joseph, again, has done a good job as the DC in Denver. That's why I'm more intrigued to go with the offensive line, because you can find good DCs that failed as head coaches. It'd be really uninspiring to me. Arthur Smith, again, this falls in the Cliff Kingsbury bucket. Like, hey, he's done a good job with Pittsburgh, has been able to make it look better with Russell Wilson. Hats off. Bad head coach in Atlanta. Don't want to go down that path. Ron Rivera, I think they will interview him. I absolutely think they're going to interview him. I think it'd be a terrible hire. He wasn't that good outside of 1 year carried by Cam Newton in Carolina and stunk in Washington. Horrible hire if they go down that path. They also did interview Marvin Lewis last time, so I have to put him on this list. Yes, it would be stupid. Some of these names, I put them on here because I'm scared of them, and I apologize for traumatizing people, but that's how it goes with the Cowboys sometimes. Prize Picks is the sponsor of today's show. They are the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 200 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, America's +1 daily fantasy sports app. You can make the holidays bigger and brighter this year with Prize Picks. They're giving away 2 free picks in December and $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas. No brainer. One of the free picks this week is the Patrick Mahomes more than half a passing yard. He's going to get it. Like, come on. Jaden Daniels also take more than passing yards, and Tyreek Hill more than receiving yards. Good slate. 217.5, by the way, seems way, way too low for Jaden Daniels. Download the Prize Picks app over at prizepicks.com/CLNS and get $50 instantly when you use code CLNS after you play your first $5 lineup. That $50 is guaranteed. You don't have to win. Get it no matter what after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All right, offensive minds, again, like kind of loosely ranked. I am intrigued by what Joe Brady has done this year as the Bills' offensive coordinator. There's been more creativity in the ground game. It helps when you have Josh Allen. Make no mistake about it. He got a bad hand dealt to him in Carolina. It was not his fault under Matt Rule. But he's going to get interviews this year. You might not like it. Kellen Moore is going to get interviews too, probably by the Dallas Cowboys. Again, this is a longer list of I would interview these guys because I want to see what offensive minds and what they could potentially offer as head coach. I do feel like going with Kellen is not enough real change, so it's not the one I love the most there. Liam Cohen, the Bucs offensive coordinator, has also done a pretty good job in Tampa. And I think he's done a good job in some previous stops as well in his time in the NFL college. I think a lot of these offensive mind names, they're probably not quite ready yet, but if you wait another year or 2 years, then they're not going to be options for you. Now, everyone likes Bobby Slowick. I'm not as high on him. It kind of feels like you're getting 70% of the Shanahan offense that you want to get out of him. The running game is explosive and not efficient, which is a little bit dicey, and the Texans have had major issues on offense this year. You can ask some Texans fans, and some of them are mad at Slowick and actually want him fired, which is always a red flag for me. Now, Lincoln Riley, former USC head coach, is only maybe an option because USC's been bad under him, or at least not up to expectations under him. But it's Lincoln Riley. This is a good time to mention again. The reason why you become a head coach, because you do a great job with the previous stint, normally an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator or whatever. However, if you don't handle the bigger picture stuff, right, like the defensive side of the ball, the head coaching stuff aspect of it, you're kind of limited. I have some concerns there with Riley in that area. There's concerns with everybody. Those guys are not head coaches right now. Todd Monken, the Ravens OC, has been a head coach collegiately. I think has done a good job with the Ravens overall. A little bit older than some of these guys on this list, but certainly a name I think you should consider. I think an under-the-radar name is Adam Stenavich, who is the non-play calling offensive coordinator, red flag there, for the Green Bay Packers. Now, he, I should also make note, did very briefly play for the Cowboys back in 2008. This is a offensive lineman through and through. Offensive line coach background, run game coordinator, has been a long-time Matt LaFleur assistant, has Shanahan tree ties as well. This is one you have to interview to see how much you trust him, because I think there would be a learning curve there. Now, Drew Petzing, the Cardinals offensive coordinator, I also like, but there's inconsistencies to his game. There's play calling. Sometimes it's good, not so good. I think he's going to get some interest because teams want the young offensive mind, but I'm not sold on him. Same with Clint Kubiak. He, by the way, might be a great answer for you of, hey, we're going to hire a non-offensive head coach. Maybe he can be your OC. You also get the Shanahan tree stuff there. Frank Smith comes from the Dolphins' Mike McDaniel coaching tree. Also got some O-line coach background as well. Again, I do get a little bit hesitant about non-play calling offensive coordinators. But he did go to my alma mater, Miami of Ohio, which doesn't really matter too much as far as I'm concerned. But again, there's some Saints, Sean Payton coaching tree stuff. So there's some intriguing elements to Smith's background that I think, again, interview double-digit guys and talk to coaches like that and see if they blow you away. Now, what is your confidence level in the Cowboys making the right hire? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. Let's go to defensive minds. Not as long on this list. Aaron Glenn. Actually, I guess I do go decent along here. The Lions defensive coordinator. He's going to draw a ton of interest. Like I think Aaron Glenn is going to get interviewed by almost every NFL team this offseason. Really good success on defense. Lions are a hot team. He's gotten better each year as a defensive coordinator. He played for the Cowboys, too, by the way, a couple of years ago, or many years ago. He's got scouting background stuff, too. Like, there's a lot of, things that are very intriguing about Aaron Glenn as head coach. I would watch out for the Jets for him, by the way. Jesse Minter, the Chargers DC, is on the Mike McDaniel path. He'll be a head coach at some point. Maybe not this year, but there's going to be interest there. Ejiro Evero, the Panthers defensive coordinator. You'll get your demo, trial run interview, whatever you want to call it, this week against the Cowboys. The defense is not talented in Carolina, and they're kind of fighting and clawing their way through it. Anthony Weaver got interviews last year. I wouldn't be surprised if he got interviews again this season. Don't love him as an option. I think Denard Wilson, under the radar, has done a fantastic job with Tennessee. That defense is good. The issue is the offense has scored more than 17 points once with Will Levis at quarterback. It's not his fault. Now, if the Cowboys make a coaching move, we will have you covered. Apologies for no live show today, but not only do I not feel great, Olivia's sick, so I got to go pick her up. We'll have more videos for you, though, every single day here on the channel. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. I do want to mention some bad ideas here. Jason Witten. No. I have zero desire to hire a successful high school head coach to be my NFL head coach. Now, if Witten wants to come be my tight ends coach, hell yeah. Head coach, stop it. I'm scared Jerry wants to go down this path. Deion Sanders. All of his actions indicate he's going to stick with Colorado, by the way. He's doing a good job in the portal, recruiting, etc. I don't think this is a good idea. This is too much ego. This is too much attention. This is already a circus in Dallas. Now it just amplifies said circus. If anything, I think the Raiders and getting to go play with getting to coach his kid, which might not actually be a good idea anyway, is maybe more in the cards. I always see someone mention Dabo. No, I don't want to do that. Dabo's shtick I don't think works in the NFL, period. Dan Lanning's might, but I don't think he wants to jump to the NFL. Finally, former players, washed coaches. So Jimmy Johnson, Tony Romo, etc. Stop it. Let's do a real coaching search and get a real head coach in here.